I've just had a reminder pop up say pay tax.
Oh, no.
Why me do my two-step?
Recording. Go.
On air.
On air. Hey, should we do this properly from the top instead of... We have been very productive little bunnies of waffle, 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 then remember to start it properly.
Let's try.
Hey, you start, Jeff. Go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to... Oh, God, I've forgotten the episode already. Episode 5 of the CROWFRO show. Jeff Rowe Perrett and him, Matt Crowhurst.
We don't actually know what episode because we've recorded quite a lot this week. We have been very productive little bunnies.
Yeah, actually, it could be episode 6.
It could be episode
We are
6.
so crap at keeping track of what we're doing.
It depends. And if anybody, I say if anybody, when everybody watched, because they were waiting with bated breath for the Ben Townley episode to come out, it came out a little bit late because I didn't account for how long that episode was, how long it would take to export from my computer, then send to Sam at Mantis to add all his wizardry, to then export from his computer, to then get onto YouTube. So we apologize for that being late. I'm sure it didn't.
It's good. It was great stuff, though. It was great stuff. And obviously, Ben was, I think, a little bit squidgy and half cut, although he probably wouldn't admit it. So it was good stuff.
Does that come across in the teaser videos that we posted?
Not at all.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, episode number 5 or 6 or whatever it is.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But we are now going to go to 2 shows a week if we can pull our fingers out to get it done, right? Because we just got the stars queuing up to chat to us, Jeff. That's the problem, isn't it?
Literally, like beating them off with a stick. We just go like, sorry, love, but I'm going to have to turn you down.
A total lack of respect for social distancing in the queue that's forming outside the Crow Show door.
True.
Okay, so we are going to make this intro quick so we don't end up talking for 3 hours. Although, once again, and I say this at the top of every single interview, our next guest, and we don't need to hold the suspense because obviously his name's in the titles, you'll have seen the teasers, has got some stories. And I'd say like us, but I think that's probably doing this guy a disservice, has got some chat. I may well fanboy out on this situation because as far as emceeing and hosting and presenting goes, this guy is at the top of the tree.
He is. I interviewed him once for Moto Magazine, and I can remember the title being Ed Leigh. I wrote this. Ed Leigh, he's a mighty fine chap. And I don't think years later, anything's any different.
So fast. Contest, and today on that first welcome back to the train. Well, think about the fact they're playing this to be an absolute belter.
You don't, not for one single second of any time you see him on TV do you think he's anything but awesome, and definitely need to have him at a dinner party. Even more so after getting on the old Googleizer and researching some of his old work. His old work that you have to rummage for it. And I don't know whether he's purposely hid that from his show reel, possibly, but there's some funny stuff. Like, we'll talk about it, but there's nudity involved not long before he got asked to commentate the Olympics for the first time. So
that's
there's
probably
still
how he
hope.
got the gig. That's probably how he got the gig.
Well, maybe in those days it was okay. I'm kind of concerned about this phone call, this email that I'm going to be getting for Strictly, and then them doing some digging. Although,
well, listen, Ed's got links with the BBC. This could be your way in. This could be it.
We're not mentioning Strictly with Ed because once they have one action sports person doing their show, then they're not going to have another one for a while, are they? So let's just keep that between us, okay?
Okay, you think he's going to steal your gig?
I do think that could be the case. Okay, right. Let's get the man in. We are CROWFRO show number, we don't know. And we are about to be talking to the one and only current top of the tree in terms of action sports hosting for the BBC, no less, for the Olympics, Red Bull, and so on. Even sailing, he's like their main dude as well. We'll talk about all of it. We'll get into it. And the one and only could not be more apt for this chap. Come on in. 3, 2. He's coming all the way from New Zealand once again, which we forgot to mention. Incoming! Welcome.
This feels a bit weird already because it feels like I'm watching We Are a Freewheeling show.
Whose show is it? Anyway, so just back off, Ed Leigh, all right? It's our show. Welcome, dude.
How you doing, gents? You well?
Very, very good. Thank you so much for taking time out. Hopefully taking time out will just pull away from the quality of your next show a little bit and help us a little bit more as well.
I've got to say, your sets look infinitely better than ours as well. I've got to say, the way
that's all we've got. That's all we've got. Good sets. Yeah. So people get wowed in the first few minutes, and that's all we need.
That's exactly. Don't judge a book by its cover, Ed.
Exactly. No, do. We're a very vacuous show.
It's impossible not to.
Thank you for both of us.
This is. I've discovered this. Somehow I lost my dressing gown, or I've moved house in the middle of lockdown, out of that amazing commune I've been in, and the only thing I've got for kind of round the houseware is an all-in-one velour suit.
I was going to ask, is that velour? That is incredible. I thought a velour jumper. That's pretty awesome. That's going to build up some stank in there, isn't it?
Ed, stop it.
It's been worth it already. The teaser's just been set already.
How?
Let me just write that time code down.
That's it. How can we compete with that? We're talking about our set, and then he turns up.
Velour onesie, Jeff. Velour onesie.
Like a bloody Bond villain. All he needs is a pat on his lap.
So yeah, can you stop doing that? Because you know there's nothing else underneath there. I don't know where to start because you're out in New Zealand. We should make that clear. So we're doing another morning show for us, evening show for you.
I mentioned quickly before, when we got locked down, I was supposed to come to Europe for the end of winter. I had an 8-week trip planned for a bit of work. Our rental agreement in Wanaka, where I am now, was coming to an end. So I chatted to a mate and said he'd got a house that he'd just finished renovating. He said, look, you can jump into the Airbnb for 10 days and then head off. My wife already got on a plane. 24 hours after she got on the plane, Trump announced a travel ban. She arrived in France and a cabin crew just said to her, turn around, go back. Otherwise, you're not getting back. Meanwhile, I'd moved into this mate's pimping pad with him and his 1-year-old child. And lockdown came along.
What was it called? The
commune. Well, we talked about a quapple, but then we thought, no, commune works better. And we got stuck in there for 7 weeks in the end. It was epic. But
it did look
amazing.
We still go back there. We're only a couple of 100 meters down the road, but it was, when you kind of get to that point, I'd kind of started reaching a state of feralness with my second wife that was possibly unacceptable. So,
a little bit too familiar in the household. Okay, brilliant.
Well, let's just say I'd started teaching them how to light farts, and the husband was delighted. Wife, not so.
That's
real
life
life
skills
education.
that need to be shared.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay,
my granddad was a founder member of the Blue Flash Club, so it's a family trait.
I expect to be an awful lot more of that.
I hope you're not trying to light farts in that suit, because that could get out of hand.
Yeah.
But does velour go up pretty quick? Yeah. Sure, it does.
Yeah, this is all plastic and petrol, I think.
Okay, good. Right, little bit of a backdrop to this for those that don't know Jeff, myself, or Ed Leigh. I mean, who are those people?
Well, exactly. I'll just sit out this one.
You know what? Turn off. We don't even want you on the show. We do.
No,
we need all the views you can.
I'm going to make a brew.
We kind of thought that this guy is going to start a show at exactly the same time of us, and it's rather good. So let's just combine forces. 2, I don't remember Ed ever being on the receiving end, so to speak, of some chat. So it's about time you had your say. Not that you don't have your say, but it'd be nice to hear what got you to here, because in doing my research, there is an eclectic mix of jobs and adventures on the way to leading to this point. And Is that a good summation? Ed?
Well, yeah. Look, there's a lot of stuff. There is. That's Ed's career and notes on paper. So yeah, he's some great stuff on there.
And like all people of our age, all of the best stuff thankfully happened pre-social media. So all of the best stuff is you won't find anywhere online, thankfully. So
I mean, I say if there's other stuff that's offline compared to what I did find online, we'll talk about this later. But we'll talk about Ed versus Spenny.
Yeah, that's a particular low point.
There's
Amazingly, that was largely buried. But do you want to get into that now?
No, I've got a chronology, a rough chronology. Okay.
Exciting. This is a bit like This Is Your Life, isn't it?
It is. And we're going to bring on this person that you had a thing with back in that. No. Well, I mean, that would be great.
I wish we did have a big. I wish we did have a big red book, though. That would be brilliant.
That's what we need to do. Okay.
Good idea. I'll make a note of that.
All right. Ed, the one problem we've been having with our shows is that they've been too long, like way too long. Like good for the chats that we've been having, good for those who have been into the sports that we've been chatting about, like Ben Townley, motocross legend, actually in your part of the world. It was 2 hours of chat that we somehow had to cut down to, well, not much less than that.
But Ben was pissed, though. Ben was pissed.
He was a little bit lubricated.
I meant that kind of pissed.
Yeah, he wasn't upset. Yeah. He was merry. Yeah.
See, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and as much as you think you're going to enjoy listening to some of your heroes drunk, very rarely does it work. Get full sober version tonight.
Okay, good. I'm glad of that. Although, I mean, drunk would have been entertaining too. So let's start at the start. Snowboard shop, Noah's Ark, Chilford is where it all began.
Wow, you have done your research, haven't you?
Near Stroud, of all places. Beautiful exotic Stroud.
To be fair, Ed suddenly looks a bit nervous now.
He did. There was a change in his mindset there.
Oh, shit.
I'm really impressed. Well, I took a job. I was saving up for my first season, and I'd taken a job packing sticky toffee puddings, and the factory was just down the road from Noah's Ark. So I'd drive past it every day, and I'd go in and hang out. I'd go up to Tamworth,
the dome.
Then I'd bunk in with them, and this was 93, late 93, and it was exploding. Like snowboards were literally running out the door, and Chris Hart, who ran Noah's Ark, was like, "Do you want to work for me?" I was like, "Yeah." And then I took in a couple of photos at the end of that winter of me doing some backflips, and it was like, "Right, you're the shop rider now." I thought I'd made it. That was me. Yes, that's it. I'm done. And yeah, the embarrassment of turning up in France with kind of shop patches on your kit and realizing that you're the shittest seasonaire in resort. That was a leveler.
How old were you there then? So that first season and then the shop thing?
18.
18. So just finished school and written school off. That was it. You were going to go full ball snowboarding?
Yeah, I grew up in a sailing family, and there was this kind of moment of, do I want to go to Western Australia and go windsurfing for the winter, or do I want to go to the mountains and go snowboarding? And the two sports were at kind of those opposite ends. Windsurfing was dying off, snowboarding was just...
All the big cigarette sponsorships of windsurfing were on their way out at that point.
Those Nick Baker silk cut glory days. Yeah. I was like, I'm not going to get free cigarettes. What can I do?
What's the point in doing this anymore? I noticed that about the windsurfing as well. So I come from a water sports background and also from a similarly landlocked part of the world. So how did that work with the sailing and the windsurfing?
Well, I mean, it's the one thing that all of us share, all Brits who've got into action sports, unless you lived really in Cornwall, maybe South Sea with those early bowls, or maybe around Romford, these sports were happening somewhere else, and there was no connection to them. There were 5 kids in my school who skated. There was James Stentiford, the legendary British snowboarder, came to my school in his 4th year and moved in 2 doors down from me. And when he left school, he went and did a season. And I was like, what's a season? And it was like, you can go snowboarding for a winter? And suddenly that was like, okay, we can go from the dry slope and we can go out to the snow. So it's like, right, okay, we're going to do this. and that's what I set my heart on. I was highly aware from about 12 or 13 that everything I wanted to do in life was not happening in Gloucester. Bless it, Gloucester's beautiful, but it wasn't ever going to be home for me. So I knew I went out to Essex to go and work at a windsurf, like a gravel pit windsurfing instructing when I was 16, and then 17, off to Greece in the summer, and then did my first winter season.
Did you do? Was that Greece? Was that a resort, like a holiday resort type place? Which one?
Well, I had the windsurfing instruction under my belt. So although I was earning no money, it was kind of 15 quid and a bit of rope. You got a free barbell, which in Greece in the early 90s wasn't great shakes, but I think I got paid 30 quid in the UK and 15 quid out there. But it was, I was 18, and those were the halcyon days for me.
Every night. The three of us have probably got, I once again doing you a disservice, Ed Leigh, but I'll say it anyway, a similar trajectory in terms of career. But in terms of where we started from sport and then we got into emceeing, what was your background, Jeff, in terms of you were just on a bike from a very young age, right?
I started racing motocross I started riding a motorcycle at 7 3/4, like Adrian Mole, whatever age he was. I did the 3/4 bit, and then started racing at 8. Yeah, and it all became about just because my brother came home from school and said he wanted to buy a motocross bike of his mate at school, and Dad no way, we're not doing it. And then 3 weeks later, we were rushed secretly taken out to a motorcycle shop to buy my brother a new bike, and just inside the door was a little YZ50, and I got on it and started making a load of bike noises, and we came out with 2 bikes. And that was it. I was up and running.
That's really unusual in motorsport as well, isn't it? Because usually that's a kind of grandfather to father to something. The hierarchy in the UK runs really deep.
Yeah, absolutely. My dad always had an interest with it, but yeah, that's how I got started. Learned to ride in the garden.
And maybe motorsport is slightly different to other action sports in that usually, and you could tell us this, you're probably quite near to where you were going riding. There was something there near you to go and do. Like there's
but then it was different. It was different for me as well, because basically the trouble with motocross is you need parents and support to go and do it when you're young, because you can't drive, you can't get the bike there, etc. Obviously, like anything else, wakeboarding, snowboarding, you can pretty much buy a board, go and do it on your own, and that's the difference. So, but it's a good family sport, yeah. So that's how I got into it, and then obviously then everything else just fluked. So here we are today. Doors open up, as I'm sure they do for all of us, and you just go, yeah, why not? No real plan. Well, I didn't have a plan.
I know someone that you'll know, Jeff. I grew up in the same village as Justin Morris.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yes, that's amazing. That's amazing.
But do you know Justin pretty well then?
Me and Justin go way, way back.
Wow, I did not know that.
I did one of the most shameful things I've ever done. Here's an exclusive for you.
Brilliant.
Because you talking about the support. I worked at the old people's home, Highgrove House, up on the hill, and Justin's dad had organised the land at the back of that to build in his own personal track. Because, by 13, Justin was riding. I could hear that bike running 2-3 hours every afternoon after school. His dad was in there with him. And I had a little DT50 that I used to
yes, Ed.
Old mopeds and pooch maxes that we used to kind of wreck down old farm lanes. But going to Justin's track and getting a ride on the bikes was the dream. And when I was about 12 or 13, we kind of got mates for a bit, and we went down to his track, and he had a trials bike that he'd ridden over there on. He was ragging his bike around. His dad said, take the trials if you want for a little. So I got it, and I was used to riding a DT50, so I thought I'd give it a handful and see if I could get the front wheel up. The thing just flipped over. I snapped the back mudguard off it, and his dad was terrifying. He was really had a short fuse. So I took this bike back, and the mudguard's hanging off. He's like, "You've broken that?" I was like, "No, I didn't." And he's like, "You just rode that bike over there, and the mudguard was fine. You come back," and I did the classic kid thing. So terrified. I went, "I didn't do it. I just held out. I didn't do it." And it was so obvious that I'd done it. But I daren't own up to it. I just kind of went into total shutdown mode.
I'm laughing.
If you're watching Mr. Morris, it was me.
It was.
Pete,
I think he knew.
There you go, Pete. Pete's going to send an invoice. I was laughing so much at that because that exact type of story happened with me with one of my schoolmates. Used to ride a bike, and then I let him have a shot on my bike because he was bigging it up at school, going, "Oh, well, my bike's a 125. Yours is only an 80. Yours, and he just got on it and absolutely whiskey throttled it straight into like a hedge at the end of the field, cut all his eye open, giving it all the large. And then he had, actually, he became my friend at school quite often after that. So I earned his
bet he
respect.
did. I bet he did. And
Good
so
stuff.
that's us starting out, and that's you having already got your teeth into winter season. So did you do winter, summer in terms of windsurfing instruction or working at the shop, or how did that work?
Yeah, exactly. I was doing Greece, kind of mid-April to October, November. A nice little line. A mate put some shots up on Facebook the other day. At the end of the summer season, you'd have a bit more of a gap into winter. And I used to deliver some of the yachts that they had. They used to, at the end of the summer season, they want the boats taken around and delivered. And I did one of those one year. And I didn't realise the flotilla crews who have all of these boats, when they have to lay the boats up, put them away for winter, they just pillage all the good parts off all the other boats. So the ones that are leaving get left with no bits on them. And me and four mates, sailed this little boat into a force 9 gale. The freshwater pump broke, the radio broke, the bilge pump that pumps all the water out the bottom of the boat broke, the back of the boom broke off, and we snuck through the Corinth Canal, like limping out of this intense storm, and we're all like, oh my God, that was mental. Get into the mouth of Piraeus Harbour, the Mediterranean's biggest harbour, and the mast snaps in two, comes swinging down through the cockpit, somehow misses all of us, would have taken one of our heads off. And we just stood there like, oh my God. So we get the bolt croppers out, start cutting through all the wire shrouds to let this mast on, try and gather it all in. And just do this almighty, and all four of us just turn around and the Greek Navy are piling out of Piraeus Harbour, like these enormous battleships, like 10 stories tall. And we're a like, stricken 28-foot vessel. Just sat in the middle of all of it.
At what age? At what tender age? 19 by now. Brilliant.
This kind of stuff, like I was starting to build up that threshold for adventure. And like, okay, well, if I get through that and I'm all right, maybe we can try something else. So,
or just desensitize you to risk. It's another way of looking at it.
It's a great, we're only at age 19 and already there's some
stories.
A little insight on how you your sense of adventure and getting out of the house from being a.
I'm going to ask at this stage: do you have access to photos to early post-puberty sailing, Ed Leigh?
I do. Well, I know that I do because I had to apply for my most recent job using them, which is fronting the international coverage of Sail GP.
Yeah. So that's recent, that is, but you had to show them those photos.
It's like, I've got a bit of heritage. Like,
yeah, just to prove. You didn't show them any picture that was taken at that moment where you nearly got mowed down and sunk by the Greek army, did you?
To be honest, I think that actually would have gone in my favour. They're that kind of crew, like these cats. But weirdly, I mean, go and check it out. It's called Sail GP. This is not sailing. It's got way more in common with flying. It's insane.
It's science fiction. So we'll get onto that. We'll talk about that a little bit later because I thought you'd been doing that for a little while. I didn't realize it was recent, but that clip I saw you flying along in that crazy high-tech foil cat is insane. But coming back to snowboarding, so we are 90s. We're early mid 90s.
Yeah. I did the main bulk of my seasons in Val d'Isère, kind of that British party town, mainly because it was the only place I knew.
Yeah.
95 to 98. And in that span, I rode a lot. I partied really hard because in that era, there was no structured competition and you actually got as much respect for the partying as you did for the riding
holidays
at that time. It seems mental now. And I do actually, I'm sure you guys do, you think, wow, if I had a coach and I'd done some yoga, I might have been all right.
You know what, Ed? We were only talking about this the other day. The last one we did was with Ricky Carmichael, and we're saying in motocross terms how he like raised the bar with the training and all that. And yeah, the whole 90s across a lot of action sports just seemed to be like that. Obviously, your good mate Rob Warner and Steve Peat they highlight what it was like in the mountain bike world. In motocross in America, you had Emig and all those party boys doing it, and then sort of mid to late 90s, it just started to get all professional and really serious, and people started training, believe it or not, properly anyway.
I read this. I read this out to Ben or to Ricky, and it was an advert for the first wakeboarding magazine, which was in a water ski magazine. And I wonder whether there was a similar vibe in snowboarding at the time. I already read this out, but it kind of typifies that that kind of vibe at the time. The advert says, chances are you got into fights with football players, could have cared less about dating a cheerleader, even though grammatically that doesn't make any sense, and at least one cop knows you by name. That was the advert for wakeboarding magazine for the individual who boards.
Ours was way simpler. The entire ethos of British snowboarding was built around the Daily Mail headline, "Ban this killer craze." And that's what everyone... Yeah, that was our moniker. Like, yeah, we live on the outside, and we're really proud about it. And that was what galvanized, I think, the strong bonds that our generation have with the sport. And it's one of the things that I'm really intrigued in now, is how the kids who are getting into it now, like you've got to face it, it is a bit like dating a cheerleader and being on the football team. It's got that kind of credibility now and mainstream appeal. So it's, you wonder where that aspect comes from. But I think the act of doing it and the fact that you have to step so far out of your comfort zone still, that builds those really strong bonds of friendship.
Oh, I think with any action sport, just being able to get on a motorbike, it's full on. Being able to cruise on a skateboard, being able to pull a wheelie on a bike, being able to cruise along the surface of the water in some form. It's not like kicking a ball or running, isn't it? It's different, and that builds something in someone that you don't get from other sports, which is very much like knowing at least one cop by name. But not for fighting, probably for indecent exposure, at least. Certainly, I know where you're concerned.
But I would say in that period, 95 to 98, the highlight for me, I had hundreds of epic powder days, but I'd set my heart on the King of the Hill, the World Extremes for snowboarding held in Alaska. And there were no Brits had been. And I convinced Chris at Noah's Ark and Burton Europe to give me a little bit of money. I got my airfare and my entry fee, and I went out to Alaska in 97 and was the first British man to enter the King of the Hill there. And that was, I'd ridden the steepest stuff I could find in Europe all winter trying to get ready for it. And that was a wake-up call. It was
what happened?
Unbelievable.
How did it go?
Look, if you imagine Europe, the mountains like that, this bit's kind of 45 degrees at March. Apron that you ride out onto is about 20 degrees. In Alaska, it just goes like that. This stuff's like an elevator shaft, about 50 degrees, and the apron's 45. So the guide will say to you, we flew in, and this photographer was literally winding the guide up, his German guy, and he was like, hey, we're not like some kind of pansy tourist crew that you think you're taking out here. We're all professionals. Like, take us to the big stuff. I was like... Telly lands on what looks like a little... Do you remember Monkey, the TV show?
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's like Monkey. It's a little cloud, and the front of the heli runners can land on this cloud like that. And then we all have to climb out of the helicopter and traverse across the runners and sit on this cloud. And there's probably, I don't know, 600, 700 meter drop underneath the heli runners. And I'm sat closest to the window on the far side. So everyone gets out. And then I'm glued to this thing, terrified. And the guide's like, get the boards out. So I've got to reach back and like the motor keeps blowing down, open this cage up and start handing snowboards one-handed onto. By the time I get on the cloud, I must have been white. And the guy said, you got 4 routes off this thing. 3 guys can rappel off the top here, and then like there's one line straight down off here. I was like, that's me. I'm not going anywhere else. I'm staying here. He said, okay, when you see us ride across in front of you, then you're safe to drop. You're not going to avalanche us. You can go. He said, when you come out of this main face, you need to turn right. There is a huge cliff at the end. So I was like, okay. So to get off this cloud, I have to kind of shuffle to the edge and then hang my legs over, and then you're just standing up into it. And the snow's on your back, it's that steep. The first jump turn I do, I'm just like literally stood still jumping. Where my heels took off and I went into my toes, I can't reach where my heels were. You're just literally falling down this elevator shaft. And I'm like, it takes me about 10 minutes to get down. You watch an Alaska video, people are burning down this stuff, and I'm literally... eventually I get close to the end of the steep section. So I start opening up. Beautiful snow, big rooster tails. And I'm like, wow. And I get out onto the apron. So I start opening it up. And I'm thinking it's like Europe where you just, woo. But it's not. What I'm actually on is like a 40-degree face. And there's no way I'm burning the speed. So I suddenly remember, you've got to make the right turn. There's this big cliff. So I start digging the toe edge in, trying to make the turn. I'm like, ugh. And it's like Roger Moore in Moonraker, like the G-force is pulling my face down. I'm getting squashed into the board, and I can feel the toe edge starting to bounce. And I'm at the point where it's just going to flick, and I'm going to roll over backwards and tomahawk down this face and off a cliff. And I can see the bowling ball, like the edge coming up. I've got about 15 meters spare, and with my toenails, I cling on to this turn, get spat out up onto the ridge. And I'm like that, and the guy, stop, you, and he sees my face, and he just goes, "You know what you did." I'm like, "Won't do that again." I was like, and that was my warm-up day in Alaska. It was actually a really good learning curve. And then I started riding with a lot of what at the time were the best boys. And that baptism of fire did me really well. I didn't do well in the freestyle day, did okay in the speed day, but I got 8th on extreme day, the big mountain day, out of a field of 40 odd, which at the time was massive. And for me, like, it wasn't a podium, but I was like, I came here and I've done a good job. So
and you got home, more importantly.
Yeah.
That's literally a steep learning curve to the absolute,
Jeff's here all night.
It's all there.
It is all there.
The contest front, because I was going to be asking you, obviously, was that the highlight in inverted commas competition-wise in terms of performance in that format? Or how did you fare in what competitions were around in that 90s period? Did you get stuck in?
No, really badly. I was really a really bad competitor. And in actual fact, like, as I said before, I was a much better kind of personality than I was into my personality made up for my lack of ability. I was really good on big mountain stuff, but there was no free ride world tour. There were no that was the only big mountain comp at the time, apart from the Verbier Extreme. And I wrote to them and they never replied. So I didn't get the end. Ironic that I get to go there and present it now. And I kind of dead arm Nicholas Hale Woods, the organizer, each year. I'm like,
every single year you say the same. Yes, screw you.
I've let it go.
Well, I like to think that maybe all of us are in the same boat.
That was my type of snowboarding. You had to go out with a filmer or a photographer.
Maybe that was the problem for all of us in terms of us not reaching the heady heights of very best in the world, is that the environment encouraged personality more than performance. And we had equal amounts of both, but the environment was such that we were always going to go the emceeing route. So it's not our fault.
It's good when you get to that level and you get certain brands that want to support you because of it. So when I got supported by Animal, one of the first things that Steve Kitchen said to me at the time was, "Look, we don't care about you winning. We'd rather that you go out and you throw out some big whips, or this is what he actually said, or you have a massive wreck and everybody talks about it." I was like, I'm your man, Steve. That's good, because I can do them once in a while. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good like that.
And then you had a knee injury, 97, which is when the old laughing gear kicked in. So
yeah. I'd had one go. One of my favorite ever stories is the stupidest thing I ever saw in snowboarding, which was a mate of mine in Val d'Isère called Gumby. The British champs were supposed to be held in Tignes, and something happened. They ended up in Val d'Isère, and I'd ridden the board across in the half pipe, I think, and it was the first time, this is interesting, the first time Red Bull had ever been in France. And I don't know if you remember, they banned Red Bull in France.
Yeah.
So on the board across racing day, this stuff turned up and we were like, "What's this?" We're just like guzzling Red Bull. I remember being on the start of the board across and looking across it. Everyone had about 12 cans and just like and everyone was like, well, this whole comp went down, and then we got to Big Air Day, and I tried to front flip off a bar with a really low ceiling, and I'd literally just thrown my legs into the ceiling and then pile drive my head into a concrete floor. I'm pretty sure I broke my neck. My wife would tell you that I definitely didn't, and I'm just a whinger. But either way, I couldn't ride in the big air. So Colin, this guy from Blackflies at the time, came up to me and said,
great eyeglass brand.
Yeah.
Think of Blackflies. Oh my gosh.
unreal, mate.
Yeah.
Why has no one bought that back? So
Oh.
Colin said, oh, Ed, you got a big mouth on you. Why don't you have a little bit of chat? I was like, okay. So that was the first time I took the mic. And I was gifted one of the best moments I've ever witnessed in all of my emceeing days. This mate of mine, Gumby, a feral Australian, absolute wild man. I swear blind, he's the missing link between Neanderthal man and us. He's got this like 2-inch thick brow. I've seen him take the heaviest wrecks. And the worst thing I've seen him do is kind of split his eyelid when a goggle lens smashed onto him. Unreal. Like, he's taking these huge slams. And he looked at me and goes, Ed, it's not a fucking best trick contest. It's a big air contest. I'm just going to go bigger than anyone else. And I was like, okay, let's see how that works out for you. So they have the qualifiers, and he's rubbish, but he's local. So I get given the list of 8 finalists. I'm reading through them. It's the who's who of British snowboarding: Justin Allenton, Steve Bailey, Chris Moran, Russ Ward, Danny Wheeler. And the crowd are going, Gumby, Gumby. And Colin's like, no. And Gumby! And he's like, so they all hike up to the top of the half pipe to drop in. Gumby goes up past that into the trees. And the half pipe, everyone's just riding down, turns, and then straight line in the last 50 meters and popping over this jump. I'm stood right next to the kicker. And then about a couple of guys are gone. And then I call in Gumby, and there's silence. And the crowd are like, Gumby, Gumby, Gumby. And then they quieten down because nothing's happening. And all of a sudden, I'm like, Gumby, this dart flies out of the trees and ollies over, jumps over where everyone else is sat, lands in the half pipe and tucks up like a cannonball. He's already doing about 3 times the speed of anyone else. And everyone's like, Gumby, Gumby. It's like a tribal drum at a human sacrifice. Everyone knows what's going to happen, but they're just so into it. He charges down. The transition of the jump is so small and tight that as he hits it, he just compresses and the board squirts out in front of him. He's already upside down as he goes past me on the lip of the jump, and the crowd goes quiet. It's just everyone breathes in as this man going upside down fires into the air. He's reached the apex. He's already cleared all of the jump and all of the landing before he's reached the apex of his jump. And I see him make the decision because his toe edge is above his head. He's like, oh God. And he goes for the halfway back flip, tries to initiate it. He comes, the board snaps off and hits his leg, and it's spring snow. So it's totally hollow. The impact echoes through everyone. And there's just this pile of human flesh on the floor. It's dead quiet. I've never MC'd before, so I've got no, well, he's going to get the best medic. It's just dead silence.
There's no retorts.
You see that? A couple of mates run out and some people pile on them. No one's sure what's going on. And then after about 2 minutes, this fist fires out of the pile of people and the crowd goes absolutely berserk. Gumby limps off to do what he later would describe as a dog, which was to hole up in an apartment and piss blood for a couple of days. That was my first taste of emceeing, and I was like,
and that is, you're in the deep end with stuff like that, because we all know, like, when that happens, you don't know what to do. Me and obviously Matt have had that a few times in arena cross, where like there's an instant, a bad one, and you've got to try and keep calm and keep the.
And you want to go, holy shit, on the mic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Ed, but I get through every arena cross show, and how I don't swear throughout that show is beyond me. Because in my head, I am, fuck, shit. You know, it's just like, did you see, you know, and it doesn't come out of my mouth, luckily. But you see some amazing stuff. And like, it's particularly when you must do like the Olympic commentary and all that, and you get so excited, you know, and yeah.
Well, the Olympics is a really strange one because it's almost like you're on some kind of camp with you, especially for me. I'm with Jenny Jones, Tim Warwood, Zoid the filming robot, who's a really old cameraman, John Nick, who's like the Ski Sunday producer, really good crew. And you're a really tight, small crew. So like the behavior, the banter's just elevating every day. You're getting more and more into it.
So is that hard to cut that off when you, I mean, because obviously you let loose in a commentary sense, it is more relaxed than most other commentators, which is why everyone loves it. But is it hard to reel it in, because it's probably major banter and ripping the shit out of everyone behind the screen, and then as soon as you go into recording mode, you have to change it a little bit? Or
Weirdly,
actively
yes
holding
and
back?
no. Yes, like considering I did, like, from 98 onwards, I did Bordex, where it was pretty much anything goes.
Yeah.
But I learned, I think in that period, I had about 4 years of doing Bordex and live emceeing there, like that big central London skate BMX. I think they had Wake at one stage. Then there was,
Battersea, was that?
yeah,
Yeah.
and then at Alexandra Palace. But what was fascinating about that, I got a really fast education in working with crowds and consequently viewers. I think it's much harder to live MC than it is to commentate, because you actually have way less time when you're commentating for TV. When you're doing it for a live audience, there's a lot of time to fill.
Yeah.
So you can start experimenting with what works. And over time, you realize that actually they like this. They don't like it when I'm really rude or mean or disgusting. And you see, like,
Damn it, that's all my material.
I started refining stuff through that period. So I was pretty late in my career. I'd kind of been going for 8 years, and I'd done a lot of journalism with Whitelines by the time I got onto mainstream TV. And I often wonder about, like, snowboarding had been in the Olympics for exactly the same amount of time. It had been 8 years. But if I'd have been given the shot in 98, then I might have been that sweary, out of control dude. But having had enough time to hone my craft, I think that's, as much as I was bitter at the time, I'm thankful that it didn't come to me straight
Were
away.
you were actively a bit gutted about not getting a call up for snowboarding in the Olympics as a commentator?
Not on a personal level. I think I'd speak for, I know each of you, I was gutted on snowboarding's level, because I didn't feel like it was being done justice with the people who were doing it. And that's all I wanted the sport. I was so passionate about it, and I was so insular. Like, I lived for snowboarding. So there was nothing else outside of it. And seeing it getting trampled on its one chance to shine in the mainstream was like a dagger through the heart. So
yeah. Hey, let's, because I want to talk about the Olympics thing and the action sports thing, because obviously that's taken hold in a big way for many years now, but more so with what was going to be the Summer Olympics this summer. Oh, that's much better now. You've really sold the backdrop now. Brilliant. So I thought you'd injured yourself, and then that's when you started Laughing Gear with Christian, and then that's what started the emceeing. But you just had a one-off spazzy party injury that started you at the Brits that 1 year in '97. That's what got it started. You were meant to be riding
like that, but then I did that little bit. That was the neck injury, but that all healed up. I had this kind of ongoing knee injury, but the knee injury started when I met my wife in '97, I think, and tried to backflip off the wall in a nightclub, and I buckled my knee.
Another backflip incident.
I'd never done it before. I just thought this will work.
What was your, hey Jeff, what was your first hosting gig? When did that start? Was that just,
Matt, it was Bates, just Matt Bates dragging me in again. Actually, Ed, I took over from Justin Morris, who was doing the commentary at the Red Bull Pro Nationals. So for whatever reason, Justin couldn't do it, was late getting it or something like that. And I was working for Matt as head of comms for the Red Bull Pro Nationals.
Yeah.
And he just said, look, Justin's not here. Do you want to take over? So I did, and started doing it with Christian Stevenson. And then that was it. And then after that, Matt just went, the dynamic between you two is really cool. I just want you doing it all the time. And that
Christian, the common denominator there. My link was I left school at 19, was going full on wakeboarding, blew my knee after a month and a half, had to get a proper job. I'd already been introduced to Christian while he was running Adidas Eyewear by Ben Benson. Do you remember Ben from Solomon? And then Red Bull. So I was Adidas Eyewear at the time, and then he was running Rad. So I got a job as a researcher on Rad for that year of 2000.
No way.
Yeah, it was sick. There was way more wakeboarding in that series of Rad than there had been.
I wonder why.
and then that year was the first year of Wakestock, which I was meant to be riding at. So I just rocked up to hang out, and then there was mic in hand, and that's what started it. So yeah, there you go. Hi, Christian. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. You're to blame.
Yeah, but that was the end. The knee injury the most important thing for me with the knee injury was going into Whitelines.
Yeah.
And that was another facet because truth be told, exactly as we said earlier, I was terminally mediocre. I kind of realized that.
I didn't say that, Ed. I did not say that. Okay. I didn't say that.
Weirdly, I don't know how you guys get on with this. Another tangent for you. You'll find this is a general theme with me. But I got the chance to move back into the mountains for the last 3-4 years. And thankfully, because my body's held out, I've actually done some of the best riding I've ever done in the last 3 or 4 years, which I was really surprised about.
That hasn't been the case for me in my wakeboarding. That's definitely not it. But that's...
Jeff?
I'm on the way back. Yeah, literally. I've had a good enough time off, and I'm getting back into the game. And last time I rode, I felt brilliant. I hit all my marks, felt great. My forearms, on the other hand, about 20 minutes later, was
take my strong hands.
Yeah, so basically, I came in and I was like, well, you know, I got a bald head anyway, so I look a bit like Popeye. But you know, if you'd have put a little, I literally was like that. I was like, oh man, can somebody take my crash helmet off because my finger.
With the old Moto T-Rex.
Yeah, no, it wasn't good. But up until that happened, and that was probably the first time ever in my career I'd have severe arm pump because I was always pretty relaxed about it. But I'd been off the bike for too long. So yeah, I'm getting back into it, Ed. I don't know if that's wise, age 47, but up here, I'm ready to go again. Feel great.
And I'm starting, and that's working out
teaching this
really well.
To ride.
Really? You're starting now?
Well, no, so is the wife listening? I looked over my head just because she's not that into bikes, and I made this tenuous reasoning for getting my full bike license last year because I was hosting a flat track racing event sponsored by Harley, and they were going to lend me a bike, so I had to get my bike license. It was work, and that was the summer after I just dislocated my shoulder motocrossing 3 days before the first arena cross last year. So the wife's not convinced. What about you and motorbikes, Ed? Ever dabbled?
I love them. I absolutely
yes.
But when I was skating and when I was snowboarding, all of my mates who were still riding, like I watched Justin and the injuries he was racking up. Between kind of 15 and 19, it started dawning on me how many of my mates had fused ankles, backs. It's just really big stuff. Like you're not messing around on a bike. Like there was one kid who we knew who overshot a jump, slipped forward on the tank and popped one of his testicles, landing flat on the tank.
I'm just gonna adjust there. I'm just gonna have a little.
Testicle.
Yeah, thanks, Ed.
Never was there such a descriptive sentence.
And it's for me. I was kind of like, right, bikes are a no-no. But then when I did X Fighters with Warner, I'd come over and I'd jump on the bikes with him a bit, and I got away with it thankfully. But I had there's a track down from him in the Vale of the White Horse somewhere, and it's just a massive valley. And then it's got a big flat section in the woods up at the top, but there's this big valley, and you can, on a big YZF 450, you're powering down the hill, and then you go through this compression and just... I remember going up the hill, and I slipped back, and I'd got the thing pinned, like whiskey throttling up this hill at about 80. I was like, I was bouncing. It's like, if I come off now, I might actually die. At the very least, I'm going to have a broken spine. And after that, I literally just walked away from it and was like, and I'm not joking. In my idle moments, if you'll find me on eBay looking at SR 500s, I'm kind of like full hipster bike these days, but I still haven't pulled the trigger on a bike. So,
yeah. Well, hey, maybe come back over. You can, Jeff can train us both up to race in our first motocross event. Apparently, that's the mission for, as well as doing the Western and a sidecar.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not. Oh, you see, you're still banging on about that, and it's just not my cup of tea.
Sidecar motocross is the future.
No, you see, I've never done Western beach race as on my own as an individual. You know, I've always avoided it. It always looks like just too much hard work at the end of a long season. I go there to get drunk and have a good time. Just to ride a sidecar with you as some kind of a boon in the
a nice lightweight passenger. Huh?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. No.
Have you ever been? I just imagine sidecar racing at Western would be like being in a sandblasting tank for an hour and a half.
Well, that's basically what it is, Ed. And people,
On a
they
normal
thrive
bike,
on it.
yeah.
Literally, I've seen people go out with yellow teeth and come back with perfectly white shot blasted teeth. It's not, it's just not for me. But obviously, we've started this thing now, so I'm gonna have to do it at some point, aren't I? Because of that clown.
Hey, any attention, all right? It's all good content, right? Hey, come on. I don't think with the two of us digressing is bad enough. Now with three of us digressing, we're never going to get through this chronology. Okay, where did we get to? We got to late 90s. You just started Laughing Gear. You've just been doing emceeing. Border X was happening at that time as well. At what point did you start throwing the TV ideas together? So I've got Trailer Park with Christian Stevenson, and I couldn't find it anywhere. What is that?
So, what happened was Christian was doing the MTV Snowball for Bordex one year. And I think we're in about 2000. No, it might be 98 by this stage, actually. 98 or 99. And Snowball took him somewhere else. There was some other big in the city event in Europe. So the guy, Bob Callway, who did a bit of rad, came to Bordex and said, Ed, Christian's away. Can you do some stuff on? So I did a bit of TV with him. I sat down, did that long, slow, painful process of trying to read lines for a camera for the first time. No one does it naturally, if you're wondering, first time. And it was painstaking, but I kind of came out of this weekend. I was like, oh, I'm a TV presenter now, thinking, yeah, I'm going to work in TV. And I remember the phone didn't ring at all until Bob called me the next year and said, do you want to do some more? So there was no big fast in. Around 2000, I started doing the air guitar stuff. Christian and I had got a tie-up on all the BMX and skate vert in the UK, bit of Boardmasters, surfing, and then we were doing all the snow events. So Laughing Gear took shape around 99, 2000. And in that time, must have been 2000, it was 2002. And I just quit Whitelines and was going to go and live with my girlfriend at the time, soon to be my wife, in Geneva. So I took a job with Onboard, the European snowboard mag. But Christian and I went to a focus group, weird thing, for CNN's. The CNN is Ted Turner's group. He's the media mogul, and he's got CNN News at this end, and then he's got CN, Cartoon Network, at this end. So he wanted something in the middle. So he came up with CNX. Yeah.
Nice.
And Christian and I went to the focus group for what this was supposed to be. A mate of ours was like, hey, can you boys just come along and tell them what this should be about? So we went along, drank all of their free beer and just larked about. And the guy who's running it was like, I want those two on my show. And literally.
Perfect.
The guy called us the next day. He's like, yeah, they want you to come to. It's like, oh, wait. He's like, get an agent. They've got money. I was like, what's an agent? Sure enough, we got tied in. And I mean, to this day, I made really, really good money. I was 26. And this job I was wrapped into a 15-month contract. They binned it after 9 months. And like everyone, that was huge. I got paid out for 6 months and was able to take the time to be a presenter and call myself a presenter without having to do other stuff. And I just I stayed busy, went and saw people and got myself in the right places. So I was able to make that jump. But it's so rare, no matter how good you are, for people to take a punt on you. I'd had 9 months of being in front of a camera every day, just working through it, cutting my teeth and turning it into a day job. And then having the financial freedom after that to carry on was how I made the jump from being kind of rubbish to being at least hireable, if you like.
And I just cut back because I want to cut this into the show. This quote that I found. I've hunted high and low for air guitar stuff online, and it's obviously because of your groundwork back in the day. It's gone on to heady heights in terms of a championship. I found this one quote, and I sent you both the link, so listen to it another time. And it's horrible, grainy, big old bucket VCR on the shoulder, I'm sure, and it looks like you're in a pub garden. And the guy says, Ed Leigh will probably explode the stage, so we have to put him out last because they'll clear the venue after he's on. That needs to go on the CV. From 2002, 2001.
if I tell you this, I'll tell you this story. You
Good.
will not believe it. So in the first, I won it. I'm 3-time UK undefeated air guitar champion. I tried to go to the Worlds. There was a British kid was winning it, but he'd done it in jeans and a t-shirt. A mate of mine was writing a piece for The Guardian about the air guitar champs happening in Brighton, where we all lived. He's like, look, just in case it's a bit shit, can you come down and just have a go and make a mess of it? And I was like, yeah, it'd be a right laugh. So I had a PVC Evel Knievel suit that I'd made, fully sewn myself. Yeah. So I went down there and there were loads of people down there doing really good gigs. And this was 2000. And you could not, I don't know if you remember that, but musically, you couldn't go out and find a night where they were playing kind of classic 80s soft metal. It was all like grunge or club. Like, it was the heyday of clubbing, really, like deep house in Brighton, at least it was. So we went along, and it was essentially a soft metal celebration with a couple of dudes dancing around in their underwear, like thrashing about air guitar. So I got up there and did some moves. At that stage, I came across, by sheer chance, I developed what would become my signature move, pretending to, like, you put the guitar behind your head, play it behind your head, arch your back, and then fall down flat on your face. Use your elbows to break your fall, but make it look like you've knocked yourself unconscious. And then get someone to James Brown you off the stage. And then as you're getting dragged off stage and everyone's worried, you jump back out and then... And I mean, I was born with a tongue for air guitar. Check this out.
Holy shit. What's his name? Gene Simmons. Eat your
not quite Gene Simmons, but not far off. So
I found that quite unsettling, to be honest.
Where did that come from? Yeah, I'm aroused and upset all at the same time. Yeah.
And that title was technically split between me and the Dumb BNC boys, who came out and did an amazing Walk This Way. It's got to be fair. So the second year, I was like, I am not going to lose this. I'm coming prepared. So I created my alter ego, Satan Whoppercock. So Satan, the start of the outfit was my mate Laura helped me. Her mum was a seamstress, and we had a quilted shoulder and breastplate with studs on it in red pleather. These skin-tight red pleather pants with studs on them. I had a mullet wig, and then I melted 2 red dildos to an Alice band, and they were my horns. And then I went onto the M4 and bought this gerb. It's a safe indoor firework. And I rigged that up to a cricket box, which I sprayed red and put over my crotch, then had this big cape. So I came out and I had a lighter in my hand. I had the cape down over my head, just the dildo sticking out. And I lit this firework, sprayed the whole crowd with, I thought it was going to be like a little sparkler. There's a couple of photos of this. I'll see if I can find them. This turbo jet of fire burning people in the front row. It was so, health and safety would have gone nuts. But I won that one hands down. Weirdly, as soon as I started that one of the dildos snapped off the Alice band and was hitting me in the face. And you know, in Lock Stock, when that guy gets beaten to death with the dildo, and they say that is a nice. It is not. It's really unpleasant. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to last with this. And it snapped off and flew into the crowd. I was like, oh well, that one's. I did the rest of it one horn. My brother had got his little handy cam out. And Mark Williams from the Fast Show, the comedian, lives down there. My brother's got footage. After everything had gone down and I'd won that one, there's footage of Mark Williams on stage with the girl who'd caught my dildo, and she's cupping herself and kind of doing the business with the dildo topless on stage next to it's the weirdest bit of footage. He never digitized it. We've lost that one. But that was the second year. And then the third year, it went to London. This is when it was accelerating quickly. 93 feet east on Brick Lane, 2,500 people. My mum and dad bought all of their mates. It's just massive. So I spent 3 months in my backyard constructing a 9-foot paper mache.
Can I just jump in there? This is all while living off the earnings from that gig back then. This was the putting the hours in full presenting that you were talking about earlier.
I told you I put it to good use.
Good. Carry on as you were. Yeah.
This penis has a detachable bell end, and I'd rigged it up to a foam fire extinguisher with a hose pipe and some Jubilees. But I actually didn't have that much money. So I didn't have enough money to test this 76 quid foam fire extinguisher that I bought. So I went up to 93 feet east and I cut together. It started off with the Bon Jovi Slippery When Wet album opening. And I just slid this. I was inside the penis. It was based on Spinal Tap's cocoons that they come out of.
Yeah.
So I was inside it. And my wife was in charge. We just got together at this stage. She was in charge of the fire extinguisher. So this penis slides out to that. And then she takes the bell end off. And then I open up the shaft and step out. And it's so I do Led Zeppelin, Whole Lot of Love. As we get towards the crescendo, I cut in. It's like, relax, don't do it. And at that point, I start backing back into the penis. My wife puts the bell end back on the top, and I start shaking it from the inside. And we haven't tested the foam fire extinguisher. But it's like, relax, don't do it. Lord! And my wife, she was so incredible with this. She just jabbed it, and the first jet went straight up and hit the ceiling. And she went, lean forward. So I just tilted it forward. Then she gave it a good handful, and the second load arced out into the crowd. And then she said, lean back. And I just leant it back. And then she emptied the rest of it, and it all dribbled down the front into a pool. And then the song starts up again, if you remember it. And I burst out on my knees and slid around my own semen. And lest we forget, my mum and dad are in the crowd with my auntie and uncle and some of their mates. And one of my aunties was heard to utter the immortal words, I've got some of Ed's cum on my face.
Oh, Ed, stop it. I gotta say, the only report.
How many times have you told this story on an interview?
Not many. No, there's a few people.
Ed.
No, but I mean, an interview. Is this recorded anywhere? This story?
I don't know. I feel like I'm far enough into my career.
It is now, mate. And
it's 20 years.
We've got teasers for days. I think we should put your interview in like 3 weeks' time, and just, pardon the pun, just drip feed everybody up until that point.
To be fair, Matt, I think it's time to wrap up the whole gig after that. I don't think we're ever.
You mean us and our careers
just
after
that? Just end it there. And I have to say, Ed, regards of Air Guitar Champ, you clearly are like the GOAT, like Ricky Carmichael. I mean, you took it to you raised the bar.
Don't do that now after that story.
No. I'm going to see. Show you. This is now the point of the so can you see that like that?
I've got one. I've got two of those.
Clavicle there.
Yeah,
same here. So I did both sides, and it basically means my head's not collected to my shoulders like it should be anymore. So in 2002, I had to kill Satan Whoppercock off, and it actually worked for me. It created the mystique that now surrounds it. And as we said at the very beginning, there's no footage that exists of it.
But there is.
I could have made up that whole story.
There's no footage of that 2002. There's no footage of that 2002 event.
If you made up that story, you're in the wrong game. You need to start writing. You need to start writing books or be in
children's
I don't know, writing
children's
films, something.
There was one level that because of the injuries I couldn't go to. There was one more thing I wanted to add, and I'm saving it for my 50th birthday. I'm gonna have a big 50th, and I'm gonna reveal it there. So
what is it about the old AC joint issue that stops you from being able to air guitar like you used to?
I get whiplash really easily now. So just give it a go now. Basically, to really get everyone wound up, you've kind of got a headbang for the first 45 to a minute of your act.
Yeah.
As soon as it gets going, and that gets really old really quick if you've got even a slightly sore neck. Okay. It's a young man's game.
It's a young man's game. Hardest game in the world. Hardest game in the world. Yeah. Wow, that was a big but awesome digression. Is there a photo anywhere that we can just like a little corner of a Satan Whoppercocker, just a blurred out
Do you know what?
something?
Do you know what? I might even have it in my virtual backgrounds here. Let's have a look. See if this one pulls up.
Oh, if you can.
How does that one look?
What's
Oh,
that?
I can see it.
Oh my God, I can.
I'm thinking, like an alternate Tom Cruise's Legend. That's what I'm thinking there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more Hellboy, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Whatever it is.
I'll send you some of those, though.
Please, could you? Oh, wow. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, obviously, once you send it, it will be going into the edit. So just whatever you want to make them. However safe you feel about your mainstream career right now, you just send us whatever you can. Because obviously, it's only going to help us. It's not going to help you.
Yeah, well, I often think everyone's got colourful pasts, maybe not quite that colourful, but the idea is that it's made me who I am. And
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not quite as bad as Richard Bacon, maybe, or Angus Deaton.
No, this is all healthy, isn't it? It's all good, clean fun, your stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
In comparison, mine's good, clean fun. So.
Good, clean.
I wouldn't see any problem with the BBC pulling that up and just showing that during Olympic coverage. I don't see how that would...
Mate, it all comes down to procreation in the day, and it's the source of life. So you are just exaggerating that mindset.
I mean, there's a little bit of Aleister Crowley about it, but...
Oh, okay. So to speak of which, because I'm going to go and watch more of this because there's a lot of it online. We're going to blast through it. Ed versus Spencer. The one bit I caught is you passing out in front of Vin Diesel. How to be too famous. Who can be the most famous? You getting naked a lot. And this was before. This was 2006. So it was that year that you
2004.
2004. Okay. But it was
ludicrously lucky with all of these things that they all dive bombed. Sky was just turning into the big US drama palace that it is today. All the big drama shows. I think it was Grey's Anatomy. Yeah. There are 24. Like there are a load of big drama shows. The new chief of that show, Ed versus Spencer, got commissioned, and then a new boss of Sky One came in and just said, "What is this terrible pack?" He put it on at like 1:30 in the morning and buried it. It got like a cult following of about 40 people, thankfully. And the drama took over. So that one never really saw. There's a couple of people who know it. And it holds a soft spot in my heart, but there's no doubt in my mind that if that stuff, what you saw is all that exists of it. I've actually got a couple of copies down there that came out in the move. But no one sees those. And that my career probably would nosedive spectacularly if they ever see the light of day.
All right. Now you're going to make me feel guilty. Okay. So I guess
no.
Post that. Right.
No, but that we did. It was 10 challenges. And no joke, they all pretty much everyone in London or in the vicinity at that time for that show. The Cuban Brothers got auditioned for it. I think Johnny Vaughan and someone else got, like they did like a 6-month casting call. And me and my mate Spenny went in pretty early for it. And they saw us. And then we got a call back out of the blue. They were just like, yeah, we've seen everyone. Then we came back to your tape and we actually think you're the best because you're genuine mates. Do you want to do it? And we thought we were going to get to live together for 3 months and shoot this show. It was horrific. The stuff we had to do on a daily basis. I walked into a pub in the East End in Who Can Get the Illest because Spencer had been bitten by a snake and had a venomous reaction.
He did that on purpose.
Yeah. And he was wearing dominatrix style kind of S&M rubber pants that he was trying to get kind of crotch rot out of. He hadn't taken them off for 4 days and he was just sweating into them. He'd rented a sunbed in the apartment and was burning himself. So he's like this sunburnt, sweaty, poisoned mess. But I had the clavicles and I went into a pub in the East End and the cameraman for me had a camera in the bag and the owner of the pub knew what was going to happen. But I basically walked up to the gnarliest dudes at the bar and called them a couple of choice words. And we had a bouncer outside who was enormous. And the filmer said to me, look, just whatever happens, like get outside, and I can't remember, he had a brilliant name, and he would speak like this. Because Mike, the cameraman, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And he was like, well, maybe we can just get whatever this security guard's name is to beat you up. Like, we'll pretend it's out on the street. And he looked at me and he went, beat him up for pleasure. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I was like, oh, I'm going in the pub. Ran in the pub, had this little exchange with the boys, and this punch came out of nowhere and floored me straight away. And then they kicked me out of the pub, and then got it all on film. And they literally kicked me into this enormous dude who's just waiting. And all 3 of them or 4 of them, however many there were just like, oh, sorry, mate, and walked back in. It was the weirdest exchange you've ever had. But that was on the daily. We were going through.
And are those your ideas? Were you actually, because the vibe you'd get from the stories you've given so far and the little clips of that show that you're seeing is that you were bang up for it, like just getting nude in public and stuff. But did it become a grind?
Well, what became a grind was that we were always against each other. If we'd have been doing it together, it would have been great. But we were essentially on our own. It's you and the cameraman just egging you on every time. You can imagine what it's like. It was the premiere of the Chronicles of Riddick, I think it was, and Vin Diesel was turning up. Like, it's an enormous red carpet gig in Leicester Square, and it got rained off outside, so we all got taken inside. So the clip's inside, and I pretended that I was overwhelmed at the sight of Vin Diesel and fainted. But it was that was a crazy one. That was who can get the most famous, and it was really odd because you're playing this strange game where if the media or if all the hacks find out that you're trying to get famous and playing them, they won't do anything.
Yeah.
So you've got to try and generate what they think is authentic story. And in that week, I made the front page of the Star, page 2 of the Sun, back page of the Metro. But I did get a permanent criminal record. It was post 9/11 and 7/7. So I streaked in Playboy gear, like black undies, white cuffs, at Old Trafford cricket ground during a West Indies England test. And the police were really apologetic, but they said, yeah, you've got to go on the DNA register and you'll have a criminal record. So
does that mean an issue for travel?
New Zealand residency.
Is that an issue now?
No, not anymore. I got it expunged after some quite a lot of diplomatic work on behalf
finagling.
Yeah, but
okay.
No, it's not an issue. It was, I'm part of the record, but I don't have a I'm part of the database, but I don't have a I can't believe I've got myself here.
Brilliant. No, it's fantastic. You sure you haven't been drinking?
Absolutely amazing.
The next one, I just want to talk because I want to throw a clip of it up because it's hilarious. It made Sophie, my wife, laugh her tits off last night. Is my life as an animal when you spent however long living as a hound, as a dog, as a chase hound, and you learned how to scare off other dogs by baring your teeth and owning your food.
You shouldn't do reality TV if you're in any form of ascendancy or even plateau in your career, I believe. It's literally, reality TV has been invented as some kind of golden handshake for dying celebrities or waning celebrities. So I was very reluctant to do it, but then, and my agent was kind of spelling it out to me, and I was like, well, maybe it could work. And then she said, look, they've got this guy, Sean Ellis. He's known as Wolfman, and he lives with wolves, and he's going to come in every day and teach you about canine behavior. I was like, okay, that sounds pretty rad. And I spoke to producers, and initially they wanted me to go in with goats. And I spoke to a mate of mine, and my mate was like, goats, there's a reason why they're the devil's animal. The only way you can communicate with them is with a baseball bat on their head. Like you're just going to get headbutted constantly. So I was like, right, okay, I'm not. And we got round to dogs, and I went and lived with a pack of 33 foxhounds, the wildest domesticated animals in the UK. And there were 33 dogs and 35 bitches, and the bitches were in a separate area. But I lived with it was mental. It was so insane. I ate once a day, had to learn to protect my food. Sean taught me how to protect my food. Like, Like, taught me about how to speak to dogs in terms of muzzle direction. Like, if a dog's muzzle goes, if you get a dog, you whine and it will come over to you. You have to then offer food, warmth, or some kind of hierarchical experience which will help elevate it. Otherwise, it will just leave. So you either give it food, or you can put your hand on the inside of its back leg where the fur's thinnest and offer it warmth. Or so I'd do this whine. Like, the dogs would come over. He'd like give it warmth, and he's like, "No, I want you to bare your teeth and your tongue and growl." Like, he said, "Watch for the muzzle. Imagine it's a clock face. If the muzzle goes below 9 or 3 on either side, the dog's lower than you in the hierarchy of the pack, and you'll know where you are." And he knew what was going to happen. I obviously didn't. So the first time I do it, I'm like, this dog's like, and walks off. So I do it again. I'm like, dog walks over. I give it some warmth. He's like, if the muzzle moves to 9 or 3, then it means that you're on a similar level, and that's when you sniff each other's bum to work out who's eaten better stuff, and that will tell you who's higher up the food chain. So we do it, and sure enough, this second dog just goes to the side, and I'm like that, and he's like, "Let him sniff you." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, you don't have to sniff it." So I was like, "This is a bit odd." He's like, "Do it again." So I do it this time, and they're pretty big feral dogs. So I'm like, this dog wanders over, sauntering, and it's I don't realise, but it's the third time of asking. So one of the big dogs has come over. I give him some warmth, and then I'm like, I've got my confidence up. I'm like, and this dog's like, right in my face here. I was like, he's like, head down.
Yeah, you are below him.
It was unreal. And I slept with these dogs. They'd spend all day eating each other's shit out of each other's arse, and I would sit there. They'd fart second or third hand shit. You've never smelt farts like it. Anything you've ever smelt from any of your mates. It's nothing on, like you're chewing them. They had night vision cameras on us, and you can see me waking up when I'm like, choking on it. But I've got 4 dogs lying on top of me like a duvet. It was unbelievable. And at the end of the week, Sean took me out to the edge of the enclosure, and he said, "Right, we're going to do howling now." The dogs howl to geographically orient. He said to me, "When do they howl?" And I said, "Before we go for a walk and last thing at night." And he said, "Yeah, they do it to geographically orientate themselves." So another pack, they do it before they walk to say they're going out, and then they do it before they go to bed to tell everyone where they are. And he said, "This is how you do it." And he taught me all about different howls. And then he let one go. All the dogs are just kind of looking at him. And then he said, "You have a go." I let one go on the wall. The whole pack comes out, walls up. Everyone's at it. And I'm just kind of, "Oh, awesome. This is cool, isn't it?" Sean's in tears. He's like, "Mate, when they started this, I thought it was just a gimmick TV show, but this is unreal. Like, they've accepted you as one of them. You're a dog, mate. You are a dog." And I was like, we left, and I got driven up the M4 to go home. They wouldn't let me drive, and they wouldn't let me get changed or get showered. And I walked into the service station to buy a pasty, and I'd been eating dog pellets all week. And I hadn't realised how bad I smelt. And I got to the counter, and the guy at the counter made the same face I'd been making through the night. He was just like dry reaching, and there was a good social distance, and he was dry reaching. It was, yeah. But that was, as stupid as that one sounds, that was actually one of the best ones. It was brilliant.
What an experience. Well, yeah. You literally were a dog, and you became a dog.
I've been a dog, Jeff.
Oh, I tell you.
There's another one for the CV.
Some life,
list, I'd say.
some life.
Where, I don't know, really, our chronology has gone to pot. The script is out the window. It was always going to be the case.
Look, I just want to, I touched on this in the intro, Ed, but you wasn't with us when we did the intro. So before we started, I wrote this on your notes. Some life. I didn't even know half of it, and just some of the stories. It's just, oh man, it's been.
Let's go. Because
I'm still laughing at the air guitar. Sorry.
Let's go serious. Can we? I mean, I don't really want to.
Yeah.
Come on. People want to know stuff. We want these stories, but I'm sure people want to know a little bit more. Okay. I was going to ask some pop quiz type questions, as in best interview, worst interview, most awkward interview you've done. If you could set the scene.
I think all 3 are one.
Yeah, because you're that sort of person. You're like, this is awful great. Yeah.
This one was so random, so wild. There was this German dude who came up with the concept of the NIA Awards. I have no idea where he got the money, but he created in Munich in probably, might have been 2002 or 3, what was on a par with the Oscars. Massive pre-party, massive red carpet. A girl called Simone, beautiful MTV presenter. It was me and her, and like, it was legit. There was millions had been spent on this. And there was Robbie Nash there, Bjorn Dunkerbeck, all of the windsurfing crew, but then there was Coston, Jamie Thomas. There was, I think Carmichael was there as well. There was everyone was there. Like, it was fully legit. Terrier, Craig Kelly, like, they'd got everyone from every sport. They'd thrown massive money at it. And I was hosting it. I'd done a couple of big things, but I wasn't, like, there was Sal Masekela was huge at that time. I think Pat Parnell was really big. It was a really odd decision. I was like, this is the biggest thing I've ever done by miles. And the guest of honor at the end to present the award to the Action Sports Athlete of the Year, who I can't even remember because this part of it was so good, was Dennis Rodman.
No way.
I've been introduced to him backstage. He's come in his kind of half wedding dress and half suit. He's got his pink hair, his massive Oakleys, and the dude's massive. He's huge. And I'm kind of talking to him about what we're going to talk about, what he wants to say. And he's just like, oh, fuck all that shit. I'll just say what I want when I get out there. I'm like, okay, cool. It just comes out. And literally, he mumbles the same. I'm like, Dennis Rodman. And he comes out and I'm like, Dennis, great night to be here. It's an honour to have a sportsman of your stature out here. And he's like, hey, oh yeah, let's fuck all that shit. Let's go party. And just throws the mic. And out of nowhere, I managed to just send an arm out and I caught the mic as it was flying off stage somehow. He just walked off stage. He'd been paid something like 20 grand to come up and say that. He didn't even say who'd won. So I got Simone. I was like, okay, Dennis has left the building. Who's in the envelope? And we announced that thing. But it was one of those moments, you're like, how on earth have I arrived? Why is Dennis Rodman in a wedding dress?
How did you get there from Noah's Ark? Yeah.
Yeah. From being a sticky toffee pudding packer to doing that. Yeah. Mad.
I had one really awkward one post the half-pipe finals in Sochi in 2014. I'm not a massive Shaun White fan. He's athletically, he's a brilliant athlete. But in terms of what he'd done for the sport, there's a lot of friction there. And if you're a part of the industry, you know that he maybe took more than he gave back. And it's with hindsight, I've softened a bit, but at the time I was pretty hardline about it.
Can you give, because I was going to ask about action sports and the Olympics and the good and the bad, because there was an awful lot of it's not right for snowboarding and such. Can you give more detail about what it is about Shaun White? Because the argument from outside in, I'm obviously much more outside than you, but I get the vibe of how he is maybe taking a little bit more. But isn't the argument that he's elevated what snowboarding is across the world to many more people, as in made it more money in a generic, indirect sense? Or is that not the case at all?
No, because Shaun actually took all that money. Okay. If you go and look what the Olympic model has done for action sports, we get pretty serious pretty quickly here. But instead of having a really even-handed annual calendar, we now have an event calendar where all of the sponsorship, all of the funding that comes into the sport relies on that 6-month window either side of the Olympics. If you're an Olympic medalist, then you're probably, from the previous games, you're going to be part of, you've got access to over 95% of the sponsorship money that's coming into the sport. That's what it means now. If you win the gold medal, you're getting into, and everyone outside that gets nothing. So it's draining it out. The brands have sidled away because mainstream brands take over. All you need now, you don't need to come to the US Open or the Larks Open or the X Games. The mainstream can tick their snowboarding box once every 4 years. And so where we had a nice even-handed sense of investment and calendar, It's now it's this 6 months every 4 years, and everyone has to make their money in that time. But all the mainstream see is Sean's name. And Sean's not there giving, I mean, he tried with Air and Style, but he wanted it to be a music festival, but it just didn't work. There was nothing being given back to the sport there. You look at what Travis Rice is doing in comparison with some great films, with his Supernatural series, his Natural Selection series. There's a constant, yes, it's elevating his profile, but at the same time, he's furthering the sport, and we're getting to see the level of sport elevated. We don't get to even see Sean ride in between Olympic cycles. He literally turns up, takes the lion's share of the sponsorship money, clocks his medal, and then disappears again. And it's a hollow feeling to have a champion like that. And I really struggle with it. It's not something that I got on with. In 2007, when his rivalry with Kevin Pearce was building, it wasn't his fault. He was a young kid, and there was a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, but he'd throw a tantrum if he didn't win and wouldn't get on podiums. And you've got event organisers who've committed to live TV who can't get Sean on the podium. Jake Burton's having to chase him down the mountain on bended knee to get him back up to stand on a podium in second place. And that stuff fades over time. But I wrote an article in the build-up to Sochi in 2014 that was unprofessional and really harsh, and I do regret writing it. And interestingly, Sean didn't win, and he'll give the corral when you come out of half pipe. He'll give the corral a good bit of time. He knows that that's where he's making his money and building his profile. And he came down, and he's often, when he does the interview, he'll kind of shift his head around and move and change focus. He got to me. I was a long way down the pen, so he'd probably been interviewing for 35, 40 minutes. He got to me, and he just stared straight at me.
Because he knew you wrote that article like that. Yeah. Is that it?
Sean White Inc., that employs 52 people in Culver City, sent me a cease and desist, tried to get the BBC to sack me, and got Whitelines to remove the article. They didn't like it. I said some pretty heavy stuff, but he gave me the interview, and he just glared at me while he did it. But he was the bigger man, and he did the interview, and I held him in really high esteem after that. I thought, well, fair play. You've just come fourth. You've lost out on a gold that you thought was yours in a pretty shitty pipe. So it wasn't your riding that lost it for you. It was the conditions and the standard of the pipe. And you've still had the nut to come in and talk to me, who's just dissed you really badly publicly. So I'd give him his credit for that. I still don't agree with what he's done, but it comes back, Jeff, to what we talked about earlier. Sean was the first of the snowboarders who came in and didn't care if he won. It had kind of been seen, you had to be, to win, you had to look like it didn't matter or you didn't care. You could really want to win, but you couldn't say that you wanted to win. Sean unapologetically said, I'm going to win. I'm going to beat all of you. And that really jarred, I think, with a lot of the older guard. But now it's obviously completely normal. Why would you? Yeah. Everyone wants to win. But
yeah.
And so do you see that argument that you just gave in terms of the ebb and flow of the money coming in out of the sport being totally blown apart by the Olympics? Do you worry for all of the other action sports that are now getting involved for that point, for that exact reason with the Olympics?
I don't know. There's a couple of different factors involved here, because on the one hand, snow sports are extremely expensive and they're in decline because of climate change, potentially. So you've got this very fragile ecosystem of funding anyway. Skiing was in a really difficult spot when snowboarding blew up in the early 90s, and skiing revitalized the winter sport industry in that respect. So are we seeing a gentle decline? Because fascinatingly, what's happening to snowboarding has happened before. And go back to the 70s, coolest thing on the mountain, hot dog skiing. Yeah. Fast forward 20 years, what's hot dog skiing? It's at the Olympics and it's aerials and moguls. These two bizarre, like derivatives of what was once an amazingly free, expressive sport. And hot dogging reinvented itself as free skiing. And I often wonder if snowboarding is going through the same arc. We've got this wonderfully free sport that's getting standardized and fed into the Olympic machine. So it comes out as a really palatable kind of mainstream sport. And is that going to crush it and kill it? And then we'll have to wait 10, 15 years and then it will explode again.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think in comparison, I think skateboarding will be fascinating because it has that magic football factor. 150
Anyone
quid,
can do it. Yeah.
you need a bit of tarmac and 150 quid and you're away. You're doing it. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And that could see skateboarding take a really different path.
And I
But
guess,
I agree with that.
yeah, I guess
but-
maybe the same with surfing as well. It's a couple of £100 and a board and get in the water and go to a degree. If you
Yeah,
can.
but I think with the surfboard, you're getting more into, and I always make this analogy with snowboarding. With kids now, to get a kid on a snowboard, I'm literally putting a choice in front of him. Do you want an iPhone X or do you want a snowboard? And the answer, more often than not, if they've got £1,000 in their pocket, is an iPhone X.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Sad but true.
But it's true. Sad but true. Yeah, exactly. And like you said, with skateboarding or BMX, you buy the bike and then you can just go and do it anywhere near home. You can find stuff to do. So surfing is a bit like the motocross side of things, where you if you're not old enough to drive, you've got to get to a surf beach. You've got to do that.
And it's a bit gnarly as well. You
Yeah.
need a bit of help getting there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk for more, but we really need to wrap this up. You. What time is it out there, by the way?
It's coming up on 9:30. It's not too bad, but I've got kids who need putting down at some
Absolutely.
stage.
Are they that annoying? Okay.
Yeah, gents, it's been, I've got to say, it's been an absolute pleasure, genuinely, to run through this. And I actually wish I could sit in and hear the other side of your stories as well, because I know they'd be just fascinating.
Stop it. I was thinking Jeff and I, we need to do that on our show maybe, but that'll probably be the least viewed show, but it'd be good for ourselves, okay? Because nostalgia isn't what it used to be. We're not done with you yet. We've got quick fire questions just to round things off, okay? To add, because we've got about 12 different shows in this. We've got the full interview, and then we've got all these segments. We're going to do a 1 minute My Life as an Animal Instagram feed, 1 minute Satan Whoppercock feed.
Oh, it's just like I could see the postman coming to Ed's place saying, "Have you got a dog?" And Ed going, "Yeah, me."
Yeah, just
Well, do you know,
of the
one of my favourite parts of my company is that when I went in 2001, I think I set it up. My accountant, lovely guy Mark, said to me, "Look, Ed, I've got to put the name of the company in the reception, so don't make it anything stupid." Yeah, like, okay. I registered Whoppercock Limited, which for the last 20 years he's had displayed in his reception. If you're worried about these stories, the BBC have actually paid. They do pay invoices made out to Whoppercock Limited.
Well, then there's no surprise then, is there, really?
Well, the bank manager regularly calls my mum and dad because it's registered at their place. He's like, "How's business?" You can see him biting his fist, and my mum plays along with it. Genius.
Oh, just great stuff.
Okay, well, we are going to wrap up the main part of the multifaceted, all digressing, weird and wonderful Yellow Brick Road of an interview that we just had with Ed Leigh. And there we have it. Ed Leigh, thank you so much for joining us for the past, what has been, let's just do, it's actually, we're still under 2 hours, which is good for us. We could have carried on.
Yeah.
That was amazing. There probably needs to be a second round at some point when we come out of all of this. When are you next in Europe going that this is going to be done in a few months? Do you think you'll be back for the winter? Well, you meant to be doing Summer Olympics.
Yep. I was doing Summer Olympics, Sail GP, some Eurosport Endurance World Championship, Superbike stuff, but all of it's gone at the moment. There's some events still penciled in for September, but I don't expect to work really before January. So I'm going on tools. I bought a piece of land down here, so I'm going to save myself some money on an apprentice, and I'm going to go on tools and build my house for the next 6 months. It's my plan. Right. Gentlemen, it's been very entertaining. Thank you so much.
Thank you, mate. Take it easy. Stay safe with you and family, and we look forward to watching more of your shows as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, good
Cheers,
stuff.
Boys.
Cheers, Ed. All the best. Stay safe. And there you go. I feel at this point that I've lived a kind of
What have we
pretty
been doing in
crap
our
ordinary
lives?
life, really. He's a boy. He is from what was it? A sticky toffee pudding packer or something like that. He said he started out as. Ed, thanks for your time. That was I was genuinely crying through some of that.
I want to put all of that in, and I want us to do the mini teaser clips of each of those separate stories, just a taster for them. But I probably should run them by him before I do, which would be such a shame because the world needs to hear all of that. Amazing. What a boy. That definitely one of the most entertaining. And we knew it was going to be, didn't we? I mean, we knew it was going to be without even knowing all of those stories.
But I didn't appreciate that he'd done so much, you know, and all those little sub stories of it's just. But you know, if you're fortunate enough to put yourself in the position that he's been, and with all those, but Dennis Rodman as well.
Dennis Rodman as well.
Yeah, good stuff. Enjoyed that. Enjoyed every minute of that.
Nice one, dude.
Right.
Amazing 5th, 6th show, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'll get back to the editing board and we will speak soon. Till the next one, Jeffrey.
Why me do my two-step?